if things get so bad, right? So bad, we might have to go to like a workers' comp commission situation. There'll be no more jury trials, So you got to be careful. There's pigs and hogs. Don't ruin it for everyone, plaintiffs' attorneys.
Welcome to The Defense Never Rests with Morgan and Akins, your monthly dose of uncommon sense about all things legal and some that are not.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special episode of The Defense Never Rests. We are doing things a little differently today. We are at the TITA conference in Philadelphia, and we have a podcast booth set up in the exhibit hall. And our plan here today is just to grab people, pull them on the podcast, and do little mini interviews and really get to know everyone who's at this conference. So wish me luck, and we're going to just go get some people. Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
Good morning. I'm wonderful.
So
we're officially on the podcast
we are
now.
Officially on. You are my first guest.
Yeah.
We are broadcasting from the TITA annual conference in Philly.
Yeah.
And you are the first person who's come over to our booth to test out this little thing we're doing today. We're having a podcasting corner at this conference. So thank you for being my guinea pig today.
You're very welcome. I was just so curious when I saw your setup here. Not something I'm used to seeing at a TITA conference. That coupled with my insatiable vanity and desire to be
famous,
interviewed and on camera was a very alluring prospect. So thanks for having me here.
Well, I'm so glad to satisfy those needs for you. So just before I have a few set questions before we jump into the questions. I want to hear a little about you. You're from Baltimore and you're an attorney.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been practicing?
Well, I've been doing trucking defense litigation for 20 years at a Baltimore, Maryland firm. And that's basically all I've done. I was mentored by Bob Franklin, who's sadly passed away about 6 years ago. He was a big TITA guy, and he was one of the kind of originators of this now very common practice area, transportation defense.
Okay.
And so that's
one thing I ask a lot of my guests, because the background's very different, but were your parents attorneys, or how did you end up going to law school? Because everyone's story is a little bit different.
My parents, I grew up in the cold, hard streets of Dublin and in Ireland, and the way some people don't know what they want to be until they're 20, 25, 30, 35. When I was 13 years of age, I saw Rumpole of the Bailey on TV, and I remember turning around and saying, I'm going to be a lawyer.
Wow.
And I never wavered from becoming a lawyer from the age of 13.
Yeah. So when did you move to the United States?
25 years ago.
Okay.
And I have been in Baltimore for 25 years, and it's my home. I love Baltimore now.
Yeah. Since my dad's family is from County Kerry, so my grandmother's from Listowel, and my grandfather's from Ballybunion.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, I could tell by looking in your eyes that you're Irish.
Yeah, I do have those eyes.
And I've no Irish DNA. I did Ancestry.com. I've 0% Irish.
Come on.
No, none. Yeah.
Where does your DNA hail
90%
from?
90% Norwegian.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you're far more legitimate.
Well, it's funny. My kids, they are more Irish than I am, and from the same county. So it's weird how those things work out.
Yeah.
So I have a bunch of questions that I have prepared that I plan to ask anyone who is brave enough to sit in the chair that you're sitting in.
I dare you.
But since you've been in the trucking industry and trucking defense for so many years, sitting here in 2021, what do you think are the top 5 issues that the trucking industry is going to see in the coming years?
Number 1, it's like the old joke in real estate, location, location, location. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 is driver shortage.
Yes.
Driver shortage is indisputably the number 1 problem facing our industry. And, we can't even get the kids to school in school buses at the moment. Number 2 is going to be insurance. There's so many big insurers pulling out of the industry. You can't get excess coverage
really
these days. Everybody is running for the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, what they like, they call it today lawsuit abuse. Lawsuit abuse. I like that. But nuclear verdicts. There's gold in them there hills.
Yeah.
And they figured it out. It used to be medical malpractice.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be products liability. And the top brass, best plaintiffs' attorneys who are highly resourced with venture capital firms getting in to fund these litigations, they have figured out where it's at. So, we need legislation to address that. Texas House Bill 18, love that. Huge landmark thing, and hopefully that'll take on all around the country. And kudos to the Texas Trucking Association for getting that passed. That was not done by attorneys, not done by the insurance industry. Shame on us. We need to do better. That's three. I don't.
That's all right. We don't have to hold you to 5, but that actually segues into my next question, was about the nuclear verdicts. Yeah. And we just saw that $1 billion verdict in Florida. And what do you think the defense side can do to kind of shift the course and combat these nuclear verdicts? Like you said, Texas already is taking the reins. Right.
And so, that hopefully that'll be a model for legislation around the country. I mean, tort negligence law was started in 1937, Donahue versus Stevenson, famous first tort case in England. Mm-hmm. And the idea was that we were to put someone into the position that they were in before the tort occurred, to make them whole.
Yeah.
That has been perverted so far beyond recognition to it now being, this arena for broader social justice and fixing society and having juries weigh in to areas that they were never designed to weigh into. And we need to scale all that back. And, that's largely what that House Bill 18 is designed to do. Let's get back to who's at fault for the accident.
Right.
And how much do we owe?
Right. Well, and I think that part of the problem is that now when you have society hearing these large numbers, they think that's normal.
Yeah.
And, and I think it's hard to get an unbiased jury when it's all over the news.
Yeah.
And they just think those dollar figures are I don't know, just common, and they're just not.
Yeah. Well, and sports players get gazillions and that's a very good point. If things get so bad, right? So bad, we might have to go to like a workers' comp commission situation. There'll be no more jury trials. It'll just be, and that's the way it is actually over in Europe. All personal injuries decided by, you can appeal it, but and how, so you got to be careful. There's pigs and hogs. Don't ruin it for everyone plaintiffs attorneys.
Keep your job.
It's a symbiotic relationship. If everything, of course, the defense attorneys, they'll publicly say we need tort reform, but privately they're like, well, we don't need too much tort reform, right?
Don't go crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what advice? We're not giving legal advice, but what advice would you give to your clients or your insureds to lower their risk exposure? Like some things that they can do on their end to try to eliminate, maybe you can't eliminate the nuclear verdicts, but help control the overall exposure.
Yeah, obviously on the bigger loss cases, you got to figure out early, do I have a whopper? Early as in within the first 20 minutes. You have to have your communication chain from driver to the first point of contact, dispatch to safety, and people along that line of communication have to know that, hey, if someone got ejected from a vehicle, or hey, if there were 3 kids in the back of the car, or if someone's lost a limb, or if a helicopter had to remove somebody, that's what we call a catastrophic accident. And you need to hit the panic button now and elevate that, so we don't want to be knowing about that 2.5 years down the line or whatever. So that's kind of important. The other thing is right size technology for the size of your outfit, right? Don't be getting all this wonderful data and technology, from your Bendix or your Lytx or whatever that's telling you all this stuff about all of the things that all of your vehicles and drivers are doing.
Yeah.
But you're not acting on it. You're not doing anything with it. You're not using it. But it's just building and building and building, and you got all this data. And then when the wrong time comes and someone demands that, it's there, but you never did anything with it. But a smart plaintiff's attorney will certainly do a lot with it, and he'll demonstrate, wow, guys, did you know you had all this amazing data that you've never done anything with?
Good point. Yeah.
Shows, so right size. Don't be like getting bells and whistles if you're not going to do anything with them.
That's a really good point, because you have a lot of smaller companies that, they feel like they might need to have to keep up to the big multi-million, billion-dollar companies. And really, if you just keep it small, keep it simple, do what you know, do all your checks and cross your I's, dot your I's and cross your T's, you should be fine.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to be fancy.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions. And, it's okay to have higher standards and great safety, robust safety protocols, but you got to enforce them.
Well, that's the biggest thing I see all the time is, like if you're going to have a protocol or an operating procedure, you have to follow said protocol and because that's the first thing that they're going to blow holes in. And sometimes it's better even not to have it if you're not going to follow it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a kind of a weird, like radical argument to be made for saying, have no procedures, have no written policy, nothing. Here's your safety procedure, whatever the federal government says, and nothing more. Whatever the law requires and nothing more. Yeah. There's no written protocol and procedure. Our rule is you comply with the law and you do nothing more. Yeah. And we've only got $750,000 in coverage. That's our system. And because, the more you have, the more, but of course, is that going to work for a company that has 1,500 units?
No, probably not.
No, it's maybe not, but it's kind of crazy, radical depart, because there's always that conflict. But of course, if the safety manager was here now, he'd be like, but that's crazy, because then my safety program's crap, right? Because I don't have policies and procedures and manuals and stuff. But the risk manager loves it, and the lawyers will love it because, then the plaintiffs, you can't be found to have not complied.
Right. So going a little off from the regular trucking questions, but what advice would you give to your younger self as you sit here today?
What advice I give to my younger self as I sit here today? Well, I'm totally stumped on that one. I don't know. I don't really. I think,
you did everything right.
I tell you what the answer to that question is. I know it. I know the answer. Do you know I have a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old?
Mm-hmm. And so you give them advice all the time.
But I have a 2-year-old.
Oh, wow.
And
that keeps you young.
I've totally realized that I was an awful parent to the 2 old. I'm going to be the parent of the century to the 2-year-old, but because I'm just a lot more chilled out now because I'm old and long in the tooth.
Yeah.
And so if I had the chance to do it over, I would have been a more relaxed parent. But you're young and you have to work hard and you're financially insecure and you're scared of everything. But it's just much more fun being an old parent.
I've had other people say that same thing to me. A friend of mine had an older son who was in his late teens, and then he had a young daughter, and he said it's so much fun to do it now in a different phase of your life. But do your older kids, are they jealous of your 2-year-old?
They're boys and she's a girl, so I think they're kind of like that. They're like uncles, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And they, she just adores them, and but I don't know if they're jealous. They might be.
You'll find out later.
Yeah. If they saw the will, they'd be absolutely outraged.
Well, if they listen to this podcast, they might be upset.
Oh, dear. Great. Well, listen, you're very kind to have me.
Well, thank you so much for sitting down and being our first guest.
Woohoo!
Tell your friends, tell everyone you sit next to today to hop on over.
Yeah.
That it's not scary, I promise.
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, cheerio. Bye.